The day they lowered my mother into the cold Texas ground, my stepfather Robert turned to the family lawyer and said loud enough for the entire crowd to hear that my name was being erased from the will because he had a new wife to think about now and because a girl like me didn't belong in the family legacy anymore. I felt the words hit like a slap, my fingers instinctively finding Bonnie's in the back row of mourners, the woman I'd loved in secret for 3 years, the only person who made the world feel right even as everything around me fell apart. Rain mixed with my tears as the minister finished his prayer, but all I could hear was the echo of Robert's voice cutting me out of the only home I'd ever known. Bonnie squeezed my hand once, quick and hidden under the folds of her black coat, her blue eyes steady on mine for just a second before she looked away. We had perfected that art over the years, small touches, stolen glances, never enough to raise suspicion in our tight-knit conservative town outside Austin. My mother Anna had been the glue holding us all together, fighting cancer for 2 long years while I balanced my junior lawyer job at the local firm and the double life that kept me sane. Robert, her second husband for the last decade, had always been polite in public, the picture of a devoted stepfather running the family construction business. But behind closed doors he pushed traditional values harder than anyone, quoting scripture at Sunday dinners and reminding me that a proper daughter built a legacy, not questioned it. Now Mom was gone and the mask was off. As the crowd dispersed under black umbrellas, Robert caught my eye across the grave and gave a single nod toward his black SUV. "Family meeting at the house in an hour, Bonnie. Don't be late." His new wife-to-be, a woman I'd only heard whispers about named Carla, wasn't even at the funeral yet, but her shadow already loomed. I turned to Bonnie, my voice barely above a whisper. "I can't do this alone." She nodded, her blonde hair damp against her forehead. "I'm right here, even if they can't know why." We had met in college at UT, both pre-law, both hiding from the same small-town expectations. What started as late-night study sessions turned into something neither of us could deny. 3 years of careful planning, weekend trips disguised as girls' weekends, whispered phone calls after midnight, promises that one day we'd find a way out. Mom had suspected something near the end. I'd seen it in her tired smiles when Bonnie visited as my best friend. But she never pushed. Robert, on the other hand, would burn everything down if he knew. The drive back to the sprawling Victorian house on the hill felt endless. My sister Emily waited on the porch, arms crossed, her husband and 2 kids inside pretending everything was normal. Robert stood at the head of the long oak table in the dining room. Papers spread out like a battle map. "Your mother left specific instructions," he started, voice flat. "But as executor, I'm making adjustments. The business stays with blood who respects it. Carla and I are starting fresh. And you, Bonnie, you've made choices that don't fit this family." He didn't say the word lesbian, not yet, but the way his eyes flicked to the door where Bonnie waited in the car told me he suspected. I sat there, heart hammering, the weight of 30 years of hiding pressing down. Emily wouldn't meet my gaze. "We have to think of the business reputation, sis. Clients talk." The betrayal stung already, but I bit my tongue. One wrong move, and the secret I'd guarded to protect Mom's peace would explode right here. Hours later, alone in my old bedroom, Bonnie slipped in through the back door after dark. We held each other on the edge of the bed, her head on my shoulder. The scent of her shampoo the only comfort in the storm. "Whatever happens, we face it together," she whispered. But I knew the choice was coming. The one that could save my family name or save us. Robert's voice carried up the stairs, arguing with the lawyer on the phone about finalizing the changes tomorrow. I pulled Bonnie closer, knowing this might be the last night under this roof where love didn't have to hide. The next morning brought the first real crack. Robert called me into his office, the same room where Mom used to read her Bible every evening. "I saw you two at the funeral," he said without preamble, sliding a folder across the desk. "Holding hands like that? In front of everyone? This ends now. Sign the waiver relinquishing your share, or I'll make sure the whole town knows why you're not welcome here anymore." My stomach dropped. He didn't have proof, not yet, but the threat was clear. Bonnie waited outside in her car again, pretending to be the supportive friend dropping off coffee. I thought of Mom's last weeks, how she'd held my hand and said, "Be true to yourself, baby, but don't break us." The choice loomed already, heavier than the rain outside. Emily texted me from the kitchen. "Just do what he says, Bonnie. For Mom's memory." Fear twisted in my chest. Fear of losing everything. Fear of losing Bonnie if I stayed silent. I stared at the paper, pen hovering, the first confrontation of many already burning. I didn't sign. Not that morning. Not when Robert slammed the folder shut and stormed out calling me ungrateful. Instead, I drove straight to Bonnie's apartment on the edge of town. The one we kept secret from everyone. She opened the door before I could knock, pulling me inside and locking it behind us. "Tell me everything," she said, her voice steady even as her hands trembled. We sat on the worn couch, the same one where we'd planned our future 100 times, and I replayed the scene word for word. Robert's new wife Carla was already moving in, he said. Some woman from his business circle he'd been seeing quietly while Mom was sick. The will changes weren't just about money. They were about rewriting history so the Thompson name stayed pure. "He thinks if he cuts me out now, no one will ask questions when he remarries next month," I told Bonnie, my head in her lap. She ran her fingers through my hair, the touch grounding me. "Then we fight it. You're a lawyer, Bonnie. You know the law." But fighting meant risk. My job at the firm depended on the family's connections. Half the clients were tied to Robert's construction empire. Coming out publicly would mean whispers turning into outright rejection in our church community, the same one that had supported Mom through chemo. Bonnie and I had always been careful. Separate vacations, coded texts, never a photo together that could leak. Last year, when I almost told Mom on her hospital bed, Bonnie had talked me down. She needs peace, not more pain. Now peace was gone, and the pain was mine to carry or share. That afternoon, Emily showed up at the apartment unannounced, her face tight with worry. "Robert's serious, Bonnie. He already called the pastor. If you don't back down, he'll tell everyone you're involved with her." She glanced at Bonnie, who stood by the window pretending not to listen. The betrayal from my own sister hit harder than Robert's threats. Emily had always been the golden child, married young, kids, the perfect life. "For the business," she added softly. "Think of what Mom would want." I wanted to scream that Mom had known more than any of them suspected, but the words stuck. Instead, I asked her to leave. The days blurred into a tense standoff. Robert filed the paperwork to remove me as beneficiary, citing irreconcilable differences in values. I spent nights poring over estate law at Bonnie's kitchen table, her coffee keeping me awake while she rubbed my shoulders. "We could just leave," she suggested once, voice hopeful. "Start over somewhere no one knows us." The idea tempted me. Sell my car, pack what mattered, disappear to a city where two women holding hands didn't make headlines. But leaving meant abandoning the house Mom built, the business that paid for my education, and the last threads of family I still loved despite everything. Robert's calls grew more vicious. "Sign it, or I'll make sure your firm hears about your lifestyle. No one hires a lawyer who can't keep her own house in order." The pressure mounted, each conversation chipping away at my resolve. Bonnie never pushed, but I saw the fear in her eyes every time I left for another family meeting. Then came the lawyer's call. Mr. Harlan, Mom's old attorney, wanted a private meeting at his office downtown. "Your mother left something for you specifically," he said, voice low. "Not for the will reading. Something personal." I drove there alone, Bonnie waiting in the parking lot like always. Inside, Harlan handed me a small USB drive. "Anna recorded this 2 weeks before she passed. She made me promise to give it to you only if things got complicated." I pocketed it, heart racing, not knowing it held the key to everything. Back in the car, Bonnie asked what it was. "I don't know yet," I admitted. "But Robert can't know." That night we sat on her couch again, the USB burning a hole in my pocket. The confrontations were just beginning, each one pushing me closer to the edge where silence would cost me Bonnie and truth would cost me everything else. The USB drive sat on Bonnie's coffee table for 2 full days while I wrestled with whether to listen. Robert had already started spreading rumors at church, nothing direct, just hints that I was straying from the path, and that the family needed to protect its reputation after Mom's death. Emily stopped answering my texts, choosing his side to keep her own kids in the private school the business funded. My boss at the firm pulled me into his office on Wednesday. "Robert called. Said there might be some personal issues affecting your focus. Take some time off, Bonnie. We don't want clients uncomfortable." The betrayal chain was tightening. Bonnie held me that night, her arms the only safe place left. "Play it," she whispered. "Whatever your mom said, it might give you strength." I plugged the drive into my laptop at midnight. Headphones in so the neighbors wouldn't hear. Mom's voice filled the room, weak but clear, the same voice that used to read me bedtime stories. "Bonnie, my sweet girl, if you're hearing this, it means Robert is doing exactly what I feared. He never accepted you fully, and now that I'm gone, he'll try to rewrite our family to fit his new life with Carla. But I know the truth about you and Bonnie, the way you light up when she's near. I saw it months ago, and I never said anything because I wanted you to tell me when you were ready. I'm so proud of the woman you are. Love isn't a sin, baby. Hiding it was the only sin here." Tears streamed down my face as she continued, revealing more. Bank statements showing Robert siphoning funds from the business into a secret account for Carla. Documents proving he pressured Mom to change the will before she died. "Use this if you need to. Fight for what's yours, but more importantly, fight for who you are. Don't let fear steal your life like it almost stole mine." Bonnie listened beside me, her hand over her mouth. "She knew," she breathed. "All this time." The recording changed everything. It wasn't just support, it was ammunition. But playing it publicly meant coming out to the whole town, risking my career, my remaining family ties, everything. The next morning Robert demanded another meeting at the house. I went, the USB in my pocket like a shield. Carla was there now, perched on Mom's favorite chair like she already owned it. "Sign the papers, Bonnie," Robert said, sliding them across the table again. "Or we go to court, and I make sure the judge hears about your choices." Emily sat beside him, nodding. "It's for the best." The confrontation turned ugly fast. I stood up, voice shaking but clear. "Mom left me something too. Something that changes all of this." I didn't play it yet, too soon, but the threat hung in the air. Robert's face paled. "Don't you dare drag her memory through the mud." I left them arguing, drove straight to Bonnie's where we spent hours planning. She wanted me to run, I wanted to fight. "If I come out now using the tape, I lose them forever," I said. She kissed my forehead. "But you keep me." The internal war raged. Dignity versus duty, love versus legacy. My firm called again, suggesting voluntary leave. Friends from church sent vague messages about prayer for lost souls. Each day brought another small betrayal. Another crack in the foundation I'd built my life on. That weekend, Bonnie and I drove out to the lake where we'd first admitted our feelings years ago. Sitting on the dock, hands finally free to hold without fear, she said, "Whatever you decide, I'm not going anywhere." But the choice was mine, and the clock was ticking toward court. Court was set for 3 weeks later. Robert moved fast, filing to contest the will entirely and freeze my access to any assets. I hired a colleague from Austin who specialized in estate disputes, but the real weapon stayed hidden. The recording. Bonnie came to every strategy session, sitting quietly in the corner of my temporary office while we mapped out arguments. "We don't have to out you fully," my new lawyer suggested. "We can focus on the financial misconduct." But I knew better. Robert would drag my personal life into it anyway. Better to control the narrative. Nights were the hardest. I'd lie awake beside Bonnie in her apartment, listening to her steady breathing, wondering if loving her openly was worth watching my sister turn away forever. Emily called once, voice pleading. "Don't do this, Bonnie. The business will suffer. Think of Mom." I hung up, heartbreaking all over again. The betrayals kept coming. My cousin, who worked at the construction yard, stopped inviting me to family barbecues. Old high school friends posted Bible verses on social media with captions about standing firm. Robert even showed up at my old firm with Carla on his arm, charming my boss into questioning my stability. Through it all, Bonnie was my rock. We cooked simple dinners together, watched old movies, made love without words, gentle, affirming moments that reminded me why I was fighting. One evening she said, "I fell in love with the woman who refuses to hide forever. But I love her enough to wait if you need to." Her words both strengthened and terrified me. The trade-off was real. My reputation, my career trajectory, the last scraps of family approval, all for the truth. 2 days before the hearing, I finally played the recording for my lawyer in private. He listened, eyes widening. "This is gold. It proves undue influence and fraud. But playing it in open court, you'll be coming out to the world." I nodded, the decision crystallizing. Bonnie waited outside, and when I told her, she pulled me into a tight hug. "I'm proud of you." The night before court, Robert left a voicemail, his voice cracking for the first time. "Don't do this, Bonnie. You'll destroy everything your mother built." I deleted it. The next morning we drove to the courthouse together, Bonnie in the passenger seat holding my hand the entire way. The steps felt like walking into battle, but for the first time, I wasn't walking alone. Inside, the courtroom was smaller than I'd imagined, wood-paneled and echoing. Robert sat on one side with Emily and Carla, all avoiding my eyes. My lawyer opened with the financial discrepancies, then called me to the stand. I took a deep breath, the USB drive in my pocket. "Your Honor, before I testify, there's something my mother left that everyone needs to hear." Robert shot up. "Objection, this is ambush." The judge allowed it. I pressed play and Mom's voice filled the room once more. Gasps rippled through the gallery. When she spoke directly about my love for Bonnie, about being proud, Robert's face went white. Emily covered her mouth. The recording ended with her plea to fight for truth. Silence hung heavy. My lawyer followed with the fraud evidence. Robert's team scrambled, but the damage was done. The judge recessed for lunch, but the air in the hallway crackled with tension. Robert cornered me near the water fountain, voice low and desperate. "You played that in front of everyone? Your mother's dying words, twisted to justify your lifestyle." His new wife Carla stood behind him, eyes wide with shock. Emily wouldn't even look at me. "This isn't what Mom wanted," she whispered when Robert walked away. "You've ruined us." The words cut deep, but I stood taller. Bonnie waited outside the building, and when I stepped into the sunlight, she wrapped her arms around me right there on the steps, no longer hiding. Cameras from the local news van flashed. Word had spread fast in our small town. "Let them see," she said softly. The afternoon session turned brutal. Robert's lawyer tried to discredit the recording, claiming Mom was medicated and not of sound mind. My side countered with medical records proving her clarity. Witnesses from the business testified to missing funds funneled to Carla's accounts. Each revelation peeled back another layer of Robert's control. By 3 o'clock, the judge had heard enough. He ruled the original will stood with modifications based on Mom's clear intent, awarding me my full share plus damages for the attempted fraud. Robert was ordered to repay the siphoned money and face potential charges. But the real victory, and the real cost, came when the gavel fell and I stood up. "Your Honor, for the record, I am in love with Bonnie Reynolds. She's not just my friend, she's my partner. And I'm done hiding." The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Emily left without a word. Robert slammed his fist on the table, face purple with rage. "You'll regret this." Outside, reporters swarmed. My phone buzzed nonstop. Messages from old colleagues, distant relatives, some supportive, most shocked. My boss left a voicemail terminating my position due to recent personal disclosures. The price was immediate and steep. That evening at Bonnie's apartment, we celebrated quietly. She cooked my favorite pasta while I stared at the court papers. "We won," she said, sliding a plate in front of me. "But it feels like we lost everything else." I pulled her close. "Not everything." Yet doubt lingered. My sister blocked my number. The family business issued a statement distancing itself from personal controversies. Church friends unfriended me on social media. The irreversible choice I'd made hung over us like a cloud. Truth had set me free, but it had also burned the bridges behind me. Bonnie never wavered. Her love the one constant. We talked late into the night about moving to Austin, starting fresh where no one knew our names. But the ache for the family I'd lost wouldn't fade. Weeks turned into months. The money from the settlement helped, but it couldn't buy back the Sunday dinners or the easy laughter with Emily that used to fill the old house. Robert pled no contest to the financial charges and quietly married Carla in a small ceremony no one from the original family attended. My sister sent one final text. "I hope you're happy now." I stared at it for hours before deleting it. Bonnie and I found a small place in Austin, close enough to visit Mom's grave when the pain got too sharp. My new job at a progressive firm felt like breathing fresh air after years underwater. Colleagues didn't blink at the photo of us on my desk. Yet some nights I still woke up reaching for the phone to call home, only to remember home no longer existed the way it used to. Bonnie proposed on a quiet evening by Lady Bird Lake. Ring simple and perfect, just like her. We built this from the ashes, she said, kneeling. I said yes through tears, the future finally ours without shadows. The scandal faded from local headlines, replaced by newer dramas, but the lessons stayed etched in me. I'd chosen truth over silence, love over legacy, and paid with pieces of my heart I could never reclaim. Standing at Mom's grave 1 year later, hand in hand with my fiancé, I whispered thanks for the recording that gave me courage. The wind rustled the leaves like an answer. Looking back, every confrontation, every betrayal, every sleepless night had led to this moment of peace. The family I'd protected for so long had chosen reputation over me, but in losing them, I found myself, and the woman who loved me completely. Life moved forward slower and surer, built on honesty instead of fear. True or false? Personal truth should always outweigh family honor, no matter the cost.